There's a visceral feeling you get when you see that red and white bucket. For millions of people across the UK, it's a cultural institution. A Friday night treat that your parents promised you if you behaved all week. It's the hangover cure that saved you during university. The place you go when you want something that tastes exactly the same as it did 10 years ago. In a world of chaos and constant change, the Colonel has always been a reliable old friend with his 11 herbs and spices. And today, they're doing better than they've ever done. Open up the financial reports for late 2025 and early 2026, and you see a business that's absolutely thriving. Against the backdrop of a recession, sales have surged by a defiant 6.5%. On paper, this is a golden age. But if you look closely, you notice a completely different reality. There's a frustrated army of fans asking, is it just me or has something changed? Complaints pile up about chicken pieces shrinking to the size of pigeon wings, and video evidence shows breading sliding off drumsticks like wet stickers.
Bro, ew! Why is it like wet?
What do you mean wet? This is how it is.
It's not crispy?
So we have a company that's financially rocketing toward the moon, while its reputation on the street seems to be facing a gravity problem. How can a business be booming and struggling at the same time? Let's go back to 1965 in Preston, Lancashire. This is where the Colonel first planted his flag on British soil. In a country raised on battered cod and mushy peas, American Southern fried chicken was an exotic revelation. It was a proper sit-down family restaurant where customers were given knives, forks, and actual ceramic plates. It was a novelty, an exotic American import that demanded respect.
Last year, a secret recipe from Louisville, Kentucky sold over 700 million pieces of fried chicken in the UK.
Fast forward to 2015. The brand had modernized, but the operational core was still built on strict discipline. If you watch the BBC's The Billion Dollar Chicken Shop today, it feels like a relic from a lost era. The documentary revealed a culture of obsession featuring internal auditors who functioned like culinary detectives. Figures like Brian, the self-described KFC policeman, were shown moving from store to store, ensuring that fries were spotless and gravy was served at the exact right temperature.
How long have you been with KFC?
27 years. A long time, man.
That's a long time.
I've actually started off part-time as a team member when I was in college. Loved it. I'm still here today. My role is basically to visit restaurants to ensure they're following the brand standards of KFC.
The documentary revealed the exact technical process that made the chickens stand out. The kitchen operated on a genuine culinary level with fresh bone-in chicken that possessed a strict 3-day shelf life. Real people hand-breaded every piece in the back room using a meticulous military-style protocol. Staff were trained to use a precise scoop and fold technique, ensuring they never pressed down on the meat. They followed a rigorous one-shake, one-tap rule to get the coating perfectly even before frying. After that, the chicken went straight into a pressure fryer, and this advanced piece of equipment cooked the meat at up to 355 degrees Fahrenheit, locking in the moisture and creating what the brand called the gold standard of crispy skin. But none of that meticulous in-house prep mattered if the chicken wasn't completely fresh. Because KFC refused to use frozen meat, this meant that every morning, a truck full of fresh British poultry arrived for the kitchen to process. The supply chain making this possible operated flawlessly, and for years, KFC partnered with Bidvest Logistics, a specialist deeply ingrained in the food service industry. They made the whole operation undeniably expensive, but completely boring. And in high-stakes supply chains, boring is the highest compliment possible because it proves everything works. But corporate leadership eventually viewed that high cost as a target. They looked at the balance sheet and saw a massive line item they could easily trim. They decided to drop their dedicated food specialist and bring in a global giant to force down expenses and prioritize efficiency. That push for efficiency officially kicked off in late 2017 when the UK supply chain contract went up for tender. Bidvest fought to hold on to the network they'd carefully built, but they were outmatched by DHL. DHL operates as a global logistics superpower capable of moving heavy car parts for Jaguar Land Rover and managing endless streams of electronics for Amazon. They pitched a highly attractive vision to the restaurant chain's corporate executives, and they promised to run the entire UK supply network cheaper and smarter by abandoning the regional model and consolidating everything into a single massive hub in Rugby. They even brought in a specialized software partner named QSL to handle the complex inventory algorithms. But behind closed doors, the people actually working in the food logistics industry immediately saw the fatal flaw in this spreadsheet logic. The GMB union, representing the soon-to-be displaced Bidvest workers, wrote a formal letter directly to KFC leadership. They explicitly warned the executives that attempting to supply highly perishable fresh chicken to nearly 1,000 restaurants from one single location was a guaranteed operational disaster. The system switch happened on February 14th and immediately caused a total collapse known as the chicken crisis. The brand new mega facility in Rugby experienced complete gridlock on its very first day, and the routing software simply couldn't communicate with the main warehouse computers. Delivery trucks packed with fresh orders were completely trapped inside the shipping yard, and at the same time, suppliers trying to drop off new inventory were stuck outside in massive traffic jams on the M6 motorway. With the facility entirely choked off from the outside world, complete chaos took over the depot floor. Pallets of highly perishable poultry aged rapidly as the trapped delivery trucks failed to deploy. This cascaded, leading to the kitchen fridges around the country going completely empty. By February 16th, a few dozen stores in the Midlands shut their doors, and the closures rapidly infected the north and eventually took down London. Over 560 of the 900 UK restaurants were shuttered by the weekend.
Finger-licking outrage in the United Kingdom, where some Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants have run out of the very thing they're named after, chicken.
That would be a problem. The fast food chain has been forced to close 800 of the roughly 900 locations in Britain.
News crews from the BBC and Sky News broadcast live in front of darkened drive-thrus, interviewing genuinely distressed families who drove miles only to find a handwritten piece of paper taped to the glass. The hysteria escalated so much that police forces in London and Manchester had to issue public statements begging citizens to stop calling 999 to report the chicken shortage. Manchester took it a step further and released this.
Hello, police emergency.
Hi, I've got an emergency here.
Right, whereabouts are you, please?
I'm at home, actually.
Right, so what's going on?
Basically, I don't know how you feel about this, but KFC is closed. I'm entirely not happy. I have to go to Burger King now.
Right, and you are taking the mick, aren't you, ringing on 999 with this?
Well, I got told to ring 999 for any emergencies, and this is an emergency, is it not?
Right, okay, well, I'm going to clear the line. I'm not taking any sort of report from you,
Who can I speak to?
You don't speak to the police about it.
So what's the non-emergency number then?
You don't speak to the police about it, full stop. It's not a police matter.
Oh, is it not?
No. Thank you, bye-bye.
For the local franchisees, the situation became a financial nightmare. They stood in empty kitchens watching their staff play cards, fully aware they were bleeding cash to cover rent and wages with zero revenue coming in, all because head office wanted to force down logistics expenses. Corporate leadership responded by hiring the advertising agency Mother London to craft a public apology. They ran a full-page newspaper ad showing an empty bucket with the brand's letters rearranged to spell FCK. The copy humbly admitted the mistake, stating that a chicken shop without any chicken is not ideal. The campaign won massive industry awards and saved the brand's immediate public image, and the British public appreciated the self-deprecating humour and forgave the operational disaster. But the success of the ad signaled to leadership that severe operational failures would be easily smoothed over as long as the marketing department was clever enough to cover them up. The 2018 crisis eventually faded from the headlines after head office humiliatingly rehired Bidvest to handle logistics for the northern half of the UK because DHL simply couldn't cope. The delivery trucks started moving again and fresh poultry returned to the kitchens, but the catastrophic system failure had already permanently fractured the trust between the local franchisees and the corporate brand. In the UK, a local KFC operator pays a massive upfront fee just to build the physical store and then hands over roughly 10% of their ongoing sales to cover royalty and national marketing fees. In exchange for surrendering that chunk of their revenue, the parent company promises to provide a flawless operational system. When that system collapsed in 2018, these owners bore the entire financial burden. They lost millions in potential sales while paying staff to stand in empty kitchens. Corporate offered some minor compensation later on, but the foundational relationship was completely destroyed. Store owners spent 2019 simply trying to recoup their massive financial losses and rebuild local customer habits. That brief window of stability shattered though when the global lockdowns completely upended the restaurant industry. They had to lock their doors, relying on drive-through lanes and third-party delivery apps, and delivery platforms took heavy percentage cuts out of every single order and bled the already thin profit margins dry. By the time the world reopened, the financial damage was done. And to make matters worse, the baseline cost of doing business in the UK exploded across the board. Energy prices tripled practically overnight, and this hit fried chicken restaurants exceptionally hard because they run banks of massive high-voltage pressure fryers continuously from open to close. The price of commercial cooking oil skyrocketed due to global supply chain disruptions, and mandatory wage increases further inflated the daily operating costs. Restaurant owners desperately needed to raise menu prices to survive this surge in expenses, but customers remained highly price sensitive. Pushing the price of a standard meal past 10 or 12 pounds would instantly kill foot traffic, and franchisees found themselves trapped in the middle with their operating costs surging while their menu prices remained artificially capped, causing their profit margins to completely evaporate. This intense financial pressure acts as an invisible hand ruining the customer experience. A desperate franchise owner looking to save their business has very few options to cut expenses, and they target labor first. They schedule 5 people for a busy Friday night shift instead of the required 8. They ignore basic store maintenance and leave broken equipment sitting idle for months. Most importantly, they crack down on food waste. The standard corporate procedure is that chicken sitting in the warming tray past its strict holding time limit must be thrown in the bin. In a healthy store, this results in tons of wasted chicken every year. But when a franchisee is teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, throwing away perfectly cooked food is the equivalent of setting money on fire. Ignoring this directive could save the franchisee thousands of pounds over the course of the year at the expense of its quality, which perfectly explains the overwhelming surge in complaints across social media. Customers are tasting the reality of a business stretching its inventory past the breaking point just to survive another month. The dramatic drop in quality represents the bitter taste of a local franchisee doing whatever it takes to survive another month. This steady decline in local store standards perfectly set the stage for aggressive competitors to step in and steal their frustrated customers. That intense financial pressure and steady loss of customers culminated in August 2024 with the collapse of Caskade Caterers, one of the brand's most powerful franchise operators. Operating a massive portfolio of 53 restaurants across the United Kingdom, their failure sent a terrifying signal to the rest of the local owners that the core business model was fundamentally broken. Administrators found massive debt crushing the company's incredibly thin profit margins. Caskade had spent the previous boom years expanding as fast as possible, and they borrowed heavy amounts of capital to open brand new locations under the assumption that their cash flow would just keep growing. But the moment operating costs surged and those margins vanished, all that debt turned completely toxic. The company simply couldn't afford the massive loan payments anymore, and the entire operation caved in. This proved to every other operator in the country that even the most established players could easily fail under the new economic reality. While the franchisees were fighting for their lives on the ground, the corporate executives in head office were looking in a completely different direction. They looked out at the broader market and noticed younger demographics spending heavy amounts of disposable income on specialty beverages. To capture that lost revenue, leadership launched a completely new initiative called Kwench, introducing a full menu of artisanal drinks. Kitchens suddenly had to shift their focus to prepare sour cherry slushies, handshaken iced teas, and barista-style coffees. But this turned into an operational disaster inside the kitchens. The back of the house operates as a highly specialized assembly line built specifically for handling raw poultry and boiling oil. The entire workflow relies on a strict and greasy rhythm of breading, frying, and packing. Forcing staff to suddenly step away and prepare complex custom beverages completely destroys that momentum. Industry experts refer to this phenomenon as complexity creep. Every single new menu item, from rice bowls to premium iced coffees, severely slows down the kitchen line and creates fatal operational bottlenecks. A severe bottleneck in a fast food environment forces a customer to wait 20 minutes for their meal while their freshly fried poultry sits aging and getting completely cold on the warming rack. But even when the kitchen manages to beat the bottleneck and box up a piping hot order, that food is immediately handed over to a system practically designed to ruin it. The rise of delivery apps definitely saved the corporate sales figures, but it completely destroyed the actual product quality. Serving fried chicken is a strict race against time, governed by basic physics. The moment a piece of poultry leaves the boiling oil, it immediately begins releasing heavy amounts of steam. If a customer eats that meal in the restaurant within 5 minutes, the steam naturally escapes into the air and the skin remains perfectly crisp. However, the modern delivery process completely ruins those physics. Workers take that piping hot chicken and seal it tightly inside a paper bag before handing it over to a driver. That driver then stuffs the order into a heavy thermal backpack and rides through the damp British weather for 20 minutes. This essentially creates a portable steam sauna, and the hot moisture has absolutely nowhere to go, so it forces its way directly back into the food. That once crispy coating absorbs all the trapped water and quickly degrades into a wet, sliding paste. This exact physical reaction explains the endless complaints about soggy skin flooding social media. The kitchen might actually cook a flawless product, but the extended transit time completely ruins it. Corporate leadership fully understood this problem and even tried fighting back. They abruptly terminated their massive partnership with Deliveroo in late 2023, hoping to consolidate their delivery channels and regain some quality control. That effort ultimately failed because the modern consumer habit is already set in stone, and people simply demand the convenience of home delivery, even if the journey guarantees a terrible meal. While corporate executives remain entirely distracted by fighting delivery algorithms and launching complex beverage menus, they're rapidly losing the actual streets to competitors who operate without a single marketing department. For decades, the local independent chicken shop served strictly as the local budget option for anyone with only a few coins in their pocket. Customers visited places like Chicken Cottage or Morley's purely out of financial necessity, treating the major corporate brand as a premium luxury upgrade. The local owner running the fries actually cooks the food right in front of the customer and happily throws in an extra wing for a regular. They memorize complex orders and transform their small storefronts into genuine community hubs. The sterile, highly mechanized environment of a modern corporate franchise simply can't replicate that fundamental level of hospitality. And while local independent shops quietly conquer the budget market, massive international competitors have crossed the Atlantic to invade the premium space. Popeyes recently launched across the UK using a strategy that focused their entire operation on perfecting the core product and heavily marketed their signature Shatter Crunch breading as a superior culinary technique. At the exact same time, Wingstop arrived to capture the cultural relevance the legacy brand had completely abandoned. They aggressively partnered with popular musicians and adopted a highly modern urban aesthetic while focusing entirely on a massive variety of dry rubs and sauces. They successfully positioned themselves as the exact fast food brand that younger generations actively want to be seen eating. This aggressive international expansion is rapidly stripping away the remaining customer base, and other global heavyweights like Jollibee have also stepped in to grab adventurous eaters looking for a completely new flavor profile. This intense market fragmentation leaves the original corporate franchise relying almost entirely on habit buyers, holding on to an aging demographic of people who only visit out of pure routine rather than any actual desire for the food. The tragedy of KFC UK is that it didn't have to be this way. The demand for fried chicken in Britain is higher than it's ever been, and the nation is addicted to poultry. The love for the brand is deep-rooted. They want KFC to be good. But the company is currently suffering from an identity crisis. It's a business caught between its heritage as a simple, high-quality chicken shop and its ambition to be a modern, high-tech, do-it-all lifestyle brand. But what do you think? Is there a good KFC left in your town, or has the rot set in everywhere? Are you Team Popeyes, Team Bossman, or are you still loyal to the bucket? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the businesses that feed us. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay curious.